Los Angeles, California. This is Now Daily with Robert Crawford, uncovering real stories worth sharing. Join the talk at nowdaily.com/show.
Welcome to Now Daily. I'm Robert Crawford. We're talking about the Supreme Court ruling with social media censorship tonight. I'm here with my co-host Julia Song at New American Politics. She's going to be joining us right now. Julia, how's it going on the East Coast?
Good. Okay, I guess.
Yeah, okay, you got a little concerns that you have with Chase Bank and a few other professionals, but I mean, the main thing that we've all been talking about the last few weeks, and I think we spoke about it on a podcast we did 2 months ago, was social media censorship. So today it turns out, Kavanaugh had a ruling. It was 5-4. He was kind of the tiebreaker. What was going on with this Supreme Court case today?
So I think that, first of all, I want to take this from a whole different approach. I think that Kavanaugh just proved himself to be a really good judge and a really good pick, because I do agree with this ruling, and this was a ruling that was more, it was leaning more towards the Democrat side, and he didn't let all the fighting that happened months ago take control over his ideas and his morals and values. He voted for what he believed was right. He ruled for what he believed it was right. And I do agree with him, because basically he's just trying to bring down. So the whole thing was, Apple was not making it easy for people to compete within the industry. And he voted against that. He said, no, it's not okay. And now I see that a lot of the conservatives, they're following this libertarian pitfall where, yes, we do want less government. Yes, we do want less of the bureaucracy that comes with it. But we don't want no government and no regulations at all. It needs to be regulated to a certain extent for things to work. And when you just want people to just be fighting all the time and have absolutely no sense of bipartisanship, no sense of conversation, these are extremely smart, extremely intelligent individuals. And when you expect them to never agree, I think that's very bad for the country, because they're just pretty much being obstructive to each other all the time. They're not getting anything done. One person is doing something, the other one is undoing, and that doesn't get anything done within the government. We have to work with each other. And we've seen that thrown out the window, and I didn't make a tweet about that today, because of both parties, in a way or another, they tend to go a little bit more towards the extremes, especially lately with this new populist wave, and they can never meet in the middle. Now, I do find that going towards the right is the right way to go. However, when are we ever going to see bipartisanship again? When are we ever going to see people who actually work in the middle that get things done in this country for the people? And that's what Brett Kavanaugh did, and I found that really good.
Okay, cool. So Brett Kavanaugh basically, at least from what we have on the screen with this article here by NPR, there's a ruling today. So it's for iPhone app developers, basically saying that Apple was charging higher than market average rates because they feel like they have a monopoly on the App Store, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, a few months ago, or maybe it was even longer, like a year ago now, they banned the InfoWars app. And that was kind of like the last straw with the InfoWars banning. So they took them off Facebook first, then Twitter, then Instagram now. And the app, though, like went to number 1 when they started doing all this banning. And then when they realized that after a few days, they took them off the App Store too. So it's going to be interesting to see if these Supreme Court cases open up like more cases, a flood of cases coming after Apple for basically monopolizing their own app store.
Yeah, I find that really ridiculous that people say we should live in the free market. We shouldn't. The free market needs to be regulated. It shouldn't be a free market. It should be a balance, and that's what I mean about the right going to the extremes. We're not going to meet anywhere in the extremes. We're not going to find any balance in the extremes. We have to find balance so that the people can be served. And so when you have these companies who grow to be something huge that you cannot control, in fact, they control the government. And this is what I was having an issue with Chase and exposing them that way. These companies, they lobby the government. They put money into the government. They put money into campaigns. They put money into candidates. They put money into making the government what they want. So this is not really the free market. And unless we grow some guts to regulate them in a way that it's good for the people, they're going to grow to be bigger than the government itself. And this is what's going to happen: censorship, time and time again.
I mean, you bring up a good perspective, and I think there is a way to meet in the middle. So we kind of have a few different fractions going on, right, politically. You have the far left, which is basically, I don't know where they kind of stand. I guess regulate everything, but they like the censorship on social media. So I think they want to regulate hate speech, which is selective speech. They want
government control of these companies. They think that these companies should be controlled by the government so that their profits could be churned into money for the people, supposedly. Now, we know that's not the case. That's not how it happens. And if the companies are part of the government, then they should do what's good for the well-being of the people, aka regulate free speech.
Which basically would just shut down. I mean, they're doing it in China, right? So it's not like we live in this world where it's like, oh, I wonder what would magically happen if we did that. It's like, no, like take a boat and go straight that way, and now you can figure it out because China's doing that. They have their own social networks like Facebook. I can't remember what the name of it is, but they have a bunch of them. And now they're like, the social credit score keeps coming back, right? So they're just doing it more hardcore in China right now. So you're saying the left wants like that, like fully regulated. If you say a mean tweet, like you shouldn't be able to get on a plane, and that's their left extreme.
That's definitely where it goes. And you've seen this extremist ideologies where people cannot find any balance at all. That you're safe here today, but then tomorrow you just want to take another step, and then tomorrow you want to take another step, and you go deeper down into the rabbit hole where you can't even understand, and your ideology doesn't even make sense. I wrote an article about that basically talked about socialism and how it clashes in the end as you go towards it with so many other ideologies that help lift it up in the first place. So this is what's going to end up happening if we keep in this path of just going where the winds take us. We have to find some common sense at one point or another, and I find that what Brett Kavanaugh did was great.
Okay, but on the flip side, you would say, well, they're private companies. Just let them do their thing. The free market will solve it. Which you're kind of seeing that because really all the government's doing. I mean, Trump keeps saying, Alex Jones said today on the show, he's like, Trump's going to pass within the next few months basically nationalizing the social media companies or breaking them up. Where what happened today wasn't that at all. It was basically saying like these companies are liable if they step out of your agreement with them, which to me sounds like the good option because I think there was a way to like treat them as a utility, right? So like when you're the cable company giving me the high-speed internet connection, you can't discriminate on, oh, you like Trump, we're not going to give your house high-speed internet. So that's illegal. So you're saying like on that level, just kind of make sure that the playing field's even?
Yeah, I mean, we do have antitrust laws for a reason, and I think that these companies, they often they don't have and this is one thing that I'm going to kind of, I hate to say this, but I'm going to kind of go completely left in a sense. These companies and people on the right, they fall so far into this ideology of we have to have the free market. Free market is everything. Free market is God on earth.
Well, free market created it, right, to begin with. They've only been around for like 10 years.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. These companies don't care about you. They don't.
Yeah, I get that.
And yeah, I know. $100 in their bank account. They don't care about you. And so if we let them go unregulated, they're just going to destroy the people and do whatever it is that they can to keep competition from rising up. Why do you think that big pharma is keeping I do 100% believe that there's something out there that can be done about cancer. I do 100% believe that there's things that can be done to
Oh, they've
cure
been
people, to help
suppressed,
people.
absolutely.
But this, they have been suppressed. All these industries have been suppressed. The medical industry, the hospital industry, the pharmaceutical industry, all the airplane industry. Oh my God, can those seats get any tighter? And I spoke about this. I was like,
What
if
if we
we
have
let,
teleportation and the government's just keeping it from us?
well, maybe not, but hopefully, within the next 5 minutes or so. But I don't think so. Anyway, so I think that if we let companies from all over the world, these airplane companies like Qatar Airways, whatever, Lufthansa, operate within the United States, the companies that we have here, the handful of companies, American Airlines, Southwest, whatever, they're going to be forced to give a better service to the consumer only because now we have all these different options. But we don't. They are protected, and they put money into lobbying the government to ensure that they stay protected. And in that way, yes, I do go leftist. I do think that we should regulate them a little bit. We shouldn't
Wait, but
make the
you just
government.
said the problem was caused by the government. So you're saying is more government? They're corrupting the government. My thing is they're going to be, I think the opposite. The free market's going to decide. Look at MySpace. MySpace went away real quick. The only reason Facebook got so big is because they're a DARPA project and the government gave them like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, the government is funding them. However, this government is not serving the people. So you do bring up a great point. The government does need to regulate to a certain extent. We cannot live in anarchy. However, these companies have grown to such an extent that they own the government at this point. So it's basically, what are they going to regulate? What are they going to do? That's why I see this decision by Kavanaugh to be so important, because he's basically not sold. He's not sold to partisanship. He's not sold to anything. He's sold to his own values and his own beliefs. So he's a man that, although the Republicans got him there, he's not going to vote for it one way or another. He's going to vote for what he believes in. And that's what I thought was amazing about it. And we need more of that in politics. More people that cannot be sold, be bought.
I agree. I agree with that. The problem is the history of the last 100 years tells you that you may get a few of those good guys in there, but the majority is not. I mean, I've heard
Now we
many
have to
rumors
look into
of
lobbying laws. We have to look
well,
into
not
lobbying
just
laws,
that, the
campaign laws,
CIA is
etc.
literally running agents. Like they're running agents for Congress. They did that in 2018 and a few of them got in. So, I mean, that's just on the black deep ops. So, first we would have to clean out all that. But then it tells me that it would just be a matter of time until it got dirty again.
Well, here's the thing though, we don't have good candidates at all. And I think that being a candidate, we need, and then this is something that I'm going to work on, is just shaping people into candidates. We just don't have good candidates. It's just, I can't even tell you
Well, it's because
how.
they're controlled, right? I mean, the candidates are controlled by really the two major parties, but not even the big donors who then control the media companies. Because I mean, what happened in 2016 and in 2012 with like Rand Paul or Ron Paul, they every time they would put a poll out, he may have like a higher number than others when you watch like a Fox poll or CNN poll, but they'll put him at the bottom, so you like psychologically think he's not a viable option.
Yeah, so, but here's the thing though, for a lot of the good people in this country want to get into politics, but they're not political material. They're just not. They're not camera ready. They don't know how to speak. They don't know what they believe in. They just know that they want to do good, but they don't know how to go about it. And we have this belief that good people are not to do any bad, right? Good people are not to
Mm-hmm.
play in the mud. Good people are to be morally superior for the sake of being good and not actually getting anything done. So we have a lot of these good people who cannot
Until
achieve
they're pushed to an
anything.
edge, and then they you gotta unleash the beast.
And so these people, they do not win campaigns. So what do these companies do? They find an actor, they find a Mitt Romney, somebody who can speak, somebody who has $1 million
Well,
smile,
AOC, they
and
just did a casting call.
exactly. So they cast these people who have a lot of charisma. They put a lot of, and then they're like, you know what? I don't know what I stand for. And they say, don't worry about it. We got you. We're going to run your Twitter account. We're going to tell you what to say. We're going to write your bills. All you got to do is just show up, be pretty, smile, hold some hands, whatever. And so these people are puppets controlled. And the society believes that politicians are the ones that are making the laws. They're not. The people behind them, the people who are pulling the strings, the people who are donating to these campaigns are the ones that are actually, money wins campaigns. And until you trace the money, you're not going to know who's actually serving the people or if the people is being served at all.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And right now I have on screen just the major shareholders of Facebook. And the top one is Vanguard Group. The second is BlackRock. And then FMR, Price T. Waterhouse, State Street Corporation, which are all subsidiaries of those first two. And I guarantee I could Google any other large media company, and you're going to get the same thing. Because that's really the problem, is you're saying, okay, there's a big flaw in the free market, and we may need government to step in to fix this flaw in the free market because these corporations get too big. Now the pharmaceutical companies are owned by the banks own Facebook, the banks own pretty much every major large corporation. We need to break them up.
The banks own the government.
Well, they own the Federal Reserve, right? It all stems back to that. So, but in terms of social media, to me, it's a free platform as long as there's like a few major sticking points. Like I would say the DNS servers, like the domain services, is the number one thing, because I think that's the next step. First they're going after the social media reach of a site like InfoWars. Then they started going after the payment systems of InfoWars, not just the social media sharing. The next step is shutting off the actual domain name. So if you go to Infowars.com, you'll just get like an error message.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with having rules. So if I write my own app and I say I don't want anybody with blonde hair, then I have to ban people that have blonde hair on the left and on the right.
You really are hating the blonde hair today. I don't know what's going on.
I am hating my blonde hair. And then, but then here's the thing though, and it was like subconsciously came to me, the blonde hair thing. But here's the thing, what they're doing is they're not saying, oh, we have rules and we're banning people who don't follow these rules. Because they're not. For example, Twitter has Hamas, Twitter has Muslim Brotherhood. It has all of these different institutions who are terrorists, who support terrorists, who finance terrorists, and it has them in their website. It has people on the left who say terrible, terrible things, who went after the Covington kids, who did incredible things, incredibly bad things for this country, and they have them in their platform. And they're not willing to have anybody on the right that says anything. I mean, they did take down Paul Joseph Watson. They did take down James Woods. I mean, they suspended him until kept his account in ransom. They did take down Office of Mike. They took down all of these accounts who weren't anywhere as close as bad as Hamas. However, I don't care if you have rules. Just make sure that your rules is the same for both sides of the political aisle. If you're only enforcing your rules on the right, then maybe you should just, say, hey, this is a tyranny. This is not a democratic app. This is a dictatorship. And here you're only going to get one point of view.
Right, but we're all waking up to that now, so can't we just go to an alternative like Stream or Steam It is coming up? Obviously the user interfaces aren't as good. They need a lot more like development and evolution. But in a matter of like 2-3 years, if those projects continue like Gab or Steam, I know Gab, right, they smeared that one real hard. They went after Gab real hard, saying that's like where all the white supremacists go to hang out. And I've used it like twice and maybe have one account for it. But why can't we just do something like that? Just leave Twitter. If Twitter's doing that, we just say bye-bye.
Well, the thing with Twitter is that they put a lot of money into marketing and to bringing people in, and a lot of that money came from government subsidies. So basically what Trump did with the universities was like, if you want to keep receiving money from the government, and this is what's so important that we have to understand, government needs to be smaller, and this makes my blood boil. Oh my God, it just makes my blood boil. Government needs to be smaller for most things. It still needs to be relevant and crack down on others, but it needs to be smaller because we don't even know where our money is going to. Our money is subsidizing all of these companies. Why doesn't it subsidize a different app? Why doesn't it give money to a different app? It doesn't, and it may have to do with some of these government experiments that you're referring to. Some companies find, you know what, there's value. We can try to figure out the behavior of consumers through this app.
Well, I
So
mean,
it's okay,
Snapchat's
let's
a
put
great
money into
example.
it.
Yeah, I mean, Snapchat barely makes any revenue. A lot of people say that their main function was a partnership with the government because they wanted facial recognition of the users. So,
Yeah, I think we need to figure out, Trump said the universities would just have to stop getting federal money if they didn't go for the free speech. And I think that the same thing needs to happen with any and every company that receives money from the people. Now, how are you ever going to know where the government puts the money? And if you look at the government expenses, you'll find that they put, money,
they
you
don't
see those
document
lists.
it. I mean, remember what was it? Donald Rumsfeld said 2.1 trillion was missing the day before 9/11. Then it came out like in 2015 that 6.8 trillion were missing just in the last few years. I mean, this money goes into a black hole. Who knows who it goes to and how they get it? I mean, they obviously get it just from the Treasury going to the Federal Reserve and printing it up just on a keyboard, right? They just type some numbers in a keyboard. But yeah, you're right. So that money's probably going to these large socials. So
Yeah,
that needs to
and
stop.
then we see this like companies going, like, not this companies, this tweets or this list that people do from now and then saying what the government is spending money on. I don't know if you've seen them, but it's like something ridiculous, like the government spent $100,000 of your tax money in 2017 to find out if dolphins can smoke, or to try to
First
put
off,
chimps
that
to
would
fight,
be a cool
whatever.
experiment. I might be for that if we crowdfund it. Could you imagine a
Yeah,
high dolphin? Oh my god. I could see
that would
dolphin
be
tours.
like a Simpsons episode.
Yeah, I could
Spider
see that.
dolphin.
No, I agree. I mean, we definitely need to tighten those belts of the government and get some transparency. But it's like, how do you do that in such a large system?
That's
I
why you
don't
gotta
know.
make it smaller.
So how
You
do
gotta
we?
make it you gotta make it more efficient, and I think it starts with, here's the thing though, it started in 2016 with people realizing I would rather have Donald Trump than to have Hillary. A lot of people don't agree with him. A lot of people don't agree with him on most things. A lot of people don't like his personality. And he does come off strong, but they would rather have him than big government Hillary. And I think that wave of conservatism brought people together in a way that they're like, okay, good. That's what I want. I want less government power over the people, and I would be willing to deal with somebody that I don't necessarily agree with or like all the time, just so that I can have somebody who represents me. Now we need to figure out how we can get this type of representatives all over the country, and we can't. We can't. People need to wake up. They need to become part of the system in order to change it. And they don't want to. They're still in this mindset that the politics belongs to the people. The politics don't belong to the people. The people are just pawns. And this mental illusion that they matter, that they make a decision. They don't. And in the end, there's two people on the ballot. Those people are being funded by somebody. Those people have somebody's best interest in mind, and it's not yours. And you think you're making a decision, you're really not. You're really not. That's the thing in North Carolina here right now we're dealing with. There are two senators are voting against, what the North Carolinian people want. So did it make a difference? Republican, Democrat? No. It
No,
didn't.
that's my concern. I mean, getting into the two-person dichotomy is a big problem, and that's why I look at like maybe a third-party option, maybe even anarchism. There's got to be a solution because you can't trust the Republicans, even though they say they're for smaller government. I mean, they really just have picked out a small list of like specific topics that they're going to continually argue about, right? Global warming, abortion, feminism, that's that's pretty much the majority of it. They argue about those few things, but none of them are arguing about the Federal Reserve. None of them are arguing about shrinking the size of these DARPA deep state projects that's giving all this funding to this black hole. Where are those discussions? And then we have people bringing in, all these social media heads basically praising them. And the congressmen are saying, hey, why is InfoWars showing up on my YouTube stream? The guy said that, the congressman said that in the testimony. So, how do we fix it when it's so broken? That's the question.
Well, I think we have to, first of all, work within the system. We have to be really smart about it. We can't just play around anymore, because we're not playing around with people who are dumb. These people are very smart. They have been doing this for at least 100 years. They know what they're doing, and they're not going to quit anytime soon. This is their milk cow, right? So I think what we have to do is pretty much try. And there's a guy in Florida. He's
their cash cow.
Yeah, but I do like milk, so.
They subsidize that milk, getting big milk money kickbacks.
Yeah, I'm a cheese person. That's why I cannot go vegan. It's cheese. It's not meat. I don't care about meat. It's cheese. But anyway, there is I love cheese. I have problems. But anyway, what was I talking about? There's this kid in Florida that he saw something going wrong, and he felt he wanted to be a part of the system. He wanted to change it. He wanted to run for Congress. And he's been running a great campaign, and he's just like somebody that had those abilities of public speaking, of what do they call it? Dressing up nice, cleaning up nice. So he has those abilities. He has those skills to present himself, to public speak, whatever. And so he decided to represent his community. We need to find people who can do that. However, it is such a difficult thing, because if I go right now running for Congress, my life will be destroyed. I'm going to lose my job. Most of the people work for these companies and do business with these companies. I'm going to lose my job. They're going to post, fake news about me. They're going to post all different kinds of, bad information about me. And enough of these lies will become eventually the truth. So who's going to want to hire me? I'm never going to find a job again. How am I going to support myself? Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. They have the ability to speak, but how are they going to? It's so impossible. They made this so impossible for the average person to be a part of the government. That is basically meant to isolate them farther and farther from this democratic process that they seem to make us believe that we are a part of. We're not part of democracy.
Correct. I agree with that.
The average person cannot run for office. This is not democracy in any sort of way. So once we realize
I think you got to do a few things. I think the problem is you got to get into the position of power to change it, right? But I think we got to go to a blockchain voting system, so everyone can vote on their smartphones. And you have a unique number. It's like linked with your citizenship. Boom, you vote right there. The problem is none of this matters, because you got to get in the position of power. I mean, you say you got Trump, we kind of pushed Trump in instead of Hillary, but, I haven't seen too many drastic changes yet from Trump.
Yeah, and plus Trump had his own money, and he didn't care about his reputation. He almost got his family destroyed, and not a lot of people want their families destroyed, to be honest with you. I don't know anybody who wants that. And he took that blow, and it's just to show you there are companies that do awful research. If they cannot find something bad with you, they'll make it up. And what are they going to do? They're going to write a little blog article about it. Then they're going to write another little blog article about it. Then they're going to change your Wikipedia page, and the Wikipedia is going to be like, what's the source? They're going to source it to that little blog article that they wrote. And now it becomes, instead of becoming some fabricated thing that they came up with, now it's the truth. Now it's on your Wikipedia page. It's officially who you are according to the internet.
Well, yeah, and we see those companies colluding too, right? There's collusion with the New York Times and Washington Post and CNN articles, and then they kind of speak with the social media companies or like Snopes. So they'll put in the correct information into Snopes that they want to see. Now you have YouTube on certain topics, which is really interesting. At the bottom of the video, they'll put like a Wikipedia page or Encyclopedia Britannica page. Like if you're looking at a video about 9/11 and the 9/11 conspiracy, they'll put a link to it right below, or a quote-unquote debunking link. So you're right, they got really smart at that within the past few years, and a lot of people fall for it because they never actually dive deep. They just read the headlines, which is exactly what happened to Alex Jones. I mean, Alex Jones is probably the most demonized name to a Democrat. Like, if I were to go to downtown DC right now and like wear an InfoWars short and be like, InfoWars news, go to Info, like, I would get my ass destroyed by like 100 people in 2 seconds because they think I'm like spreading white hate speech.
Yeah, and I just actually thought about a subject. I don't know if you want to change. You can just tell me. You can just tell me to stay on my lane. But I did want to talk about it if you wanted to just like brush over this topic real quick.
What do you got? What is it?
Permission?
Sure.
Well, I don't know. Did you see my tweet about Chips Ahoy and Converse?
Chips Ahoy and Converse? No.
Okay, so that's gonna make things interesting. Do I have the permission to move forward with the subject?
Yeah, you don't need my permission. Go.
Okay.
Talk, girl.
Okay, I'm gonna talk. So, and because we were talking about big companies and the things that they do and how they get involved politically, the Chips Ahoy company and the Converse company, which is linked to Nike, which we know by fact that they chose to support that guy, who you may like it or not, because you have a libertarian vein and you support his right of, whatever. But anyway, backing up, Converse announced that their spokesperson, their it model, whatever, for their new line in celebration to the Pride month was going to be Desmond, that little kid that...
Oh, the 11-year-old kid that they're putting in their campaign.
The 11-year-old autistic kid who goes out dancing on strip clubs, gay strip clubs, and gets money thrown at him. So they're going to use that kid to launch their Pride line, the Pride Month line.
I've even seen like Pride sandwich lines, like this whole thing on Pride. You gotta wonder, like, supposedly it's a very small percentage of the population that are in the LGBTQ community. So what's with such a huge media push behind it? Yeah, why would they hire a kid and do a campaign like this? And why is it an 11-year-old kid? Which is really weird. I also saw your post about, what was that guy, John something, who was like posting to like a 14-year-old kid, messaging them like some really weird stuff. The YouTube star that got in the feud, he like does makeup on his face.
Oh, James Charles, but
I
don't think he was messaging a kid. I don't remember if he was messaging a kid, but yeah, he is a big person in this field, and he talks about gender fluidity, and his audience is mostly 12 to 14 years old, which in a way you cannot keep these kids from watching him. However, when you make an 11-year-old sexualized to the point that saying this sexuality month is going to be represented by our company, by this 11-year-old kid who goes out dancing in strip clubs, what kind of message is that? Isn't there a problem? Am I the only one that has a problem with a kid representing a sexualization month? I'm just gonna...
Well, no, I mean, it's definitely weird. Like, even if the kid wasn't cross-dressing and you just take that kid into a bar, you're not allowed to take him into a bar. You couldn't even take him to, like, you wouldn't even want him at Mardi Gras, right? You'd be like, get out of here, kid. You got people showing their tits for beads. Like, get out of here. So it's like there is some weird agenda to sexualize the children and this like cross-dressing kind of LGBTQ community. And when you bring it up, that's when they really go hard on censoring and attacking you too, like if you kind of just question it.
Yeah, and then Chips Ahoy was doing something. They're on the Mother's Day. They put a drag queen talking about happy Mother's Day to your drag mom, and you have to understand who is the primary target of that product is kids. I'm not. I know my ass is not eating Chips Ahoy. It's kids. Kids are eating that. So why are you putting this kind of? You should be putting kids to talk to kids about things that kids talk about. Don't bring up drag queens. Don't bring up sexuality. Don't bring up makeup. Don't bring up things like that to children. Why is it okay? And what's the where are we going with this? Is this gonna get worse? That's what I'm worried about.
Oh yeah, because it's an agenda. The real question is like who are like the brain group at the top of it that's then telling these companies, we just said that Facebook is owned by the same people that would own Nike or the major shareholders of Bank of America or Chase. So if we know this, then the same board of directors kind of co-mingles, and a lot of them meet at the Bilderberg meetings and these other Council on Foreign Relations meetings. So the question is it an agenda item for these globalists? And it seems like it is. And the question is why? And I think the answer is to try to break up the family, which has been their goal even in the 60s and 70s. Testimony came out in the Senate of these large foundations, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundations, Carnegie Foundations. They were funding feminism, basically, because their whole theory is we have half the population not working. If we can convince women to also work, we'll get twice as much revenue. So they just wanted us to, and then they'll also be more dependent on the government. So I think the agenda is like break up the family. Part of the depopulation agenda too, because if you have a lot more, people that are men that are feminized, then they're probably not going to procreate and have kids.
Yeah, and that also brings a good point that I've been thinking about, which is keeping what does masculinity mean to society. And I think it means that people who have this in them, and I don't even know if it's a masculinity, it's more like almost like an alphaness to them, I guess. And women can have this too, because it's not just being masculine, it's being assertive. And when you take away and you make people, you brew people into insecurity, you drown them with that, you make them feel like they're worthless. This feeling of masculinity, this feeling of empowerment goes away. And now you start taking away things that are related to it. So what is related to that? For example, they don't think that, they want to push away the idea that guns aren't cool anymore. Why do you need a gun? You have the police, you have the state, you have the army, you have the space force. You don't need a gun. Gun is for toxic masculine people. You need that in your life. And so they push all of these things to keep their campaigning going so that they can take away and chip away so many more of your rights. That this whole over-regulating people is just, if you want to regulate a little bit of companies, go away or go with it. But regulating people to the extent where they cannot even be free to be themselves. I cannot go fishing. I cannot go hunting without a license. I go to jail. What if I depend on it? What if I'm really hungry and I just go fishing and I can go to jail for that?
Or occupational license. I mean, you have to spend more time in schooling and testing to get a license to cut hair than to be a police officer.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're changing our society. They're taking away our values. They're turning us into something that we're not. And I say this, that this is not only about masculinity, because I think that the women in the 1960s, although they wore dresses, they were much more women than many men. Now we're much more strong and they knew what they stood for than men now. So it's like,
well, you have a lot of women that are like marching, right? You see the feminist march and the pussy hat movement. So you have these women that are like super energized, but they're like brainwashed, right, into like thinking just
they don't know what
crazy
they
stuff.
stand for. They don't. They're just
They
people
know
who
that
are
they want to
following.
like take an action, but they don't know. You're right. They don't know what they stand for. So someone puts a thought into their mind and then they run with it.
Exactly. They're just people following, and same with these guys. They're just, you know, I go into these big cities and it's just so weird. It's just so weird. I can't understand how people, and when you have a nation that becomes weak within the inside, you have people coming unvetted, unregulated through the border, through all kinds of means, and you have all these people coming in here, and all these countries that hate us. Our weak society is going to be conquered by a society that is not weak. That is a fact. And so we do not want to become that society. We haven't becoming, and we just don't want to be in that position ever.
I think it's a tough fine line. I mean, I would say Russia goes the other way, right? Where they want to be quote unquote strong. So they still persecute gay people, you know, they're very much kind of, I guess, orthodox or conservative, where they want to have family units, you know, kind of more traditional roles. But I think that impends on freedoms too. So I think it's a fine line. I'm just baffled by the agenda. You know, I could see if someone wants to, you know, if a guy wants to dress up as a girl every day, doesn't affect me. Like, do your thing.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. But when you start pushing it on people for like an obvious agenda, and you see it on the majority of sitcom shows, and you see it on the social media and the major media companies pushing it and having them on, you know, then I have an issue with that. And how do you even stop that? Because that's,
Yeah.
it gets into free speech. And then if you talk against it, they say it's hate speech, which is, that's their new term, right? This is where these two topics come together on social media, is Facebook and Twitter says, you're saying hate speech, but hate speech could literally be anything.
Yeah. I think that, once again, it's about balance, but you have to know what values do you stand upon as a society. Are you the society that's going? How are you even going to move forward? What are the basic values that brought us to where we are today? Even speaking about evolution, speaking about how society got to the point where it is, it's based on family, and then you make this individuals, you turn them into the mainstream. You turn them from an exception to something that needs to be not only popularized, something that needs to be cheered, something that needs to be admired, something that needs to be imitated. And when you do that to people who do not have developed to their full mature potential, you are creating a society that is extremely brainwashed and doesn't know what they stand for anymore. And those values go against our own species. We need families, we need to procreate, we need to be together as a society.
But
we
it's
need to be
all about
strong.
the overpopulation agenda, right? Which is the whole globalist game plan. That's why you had AOC screaming, we're all going to be dead in 12 years. And now she's like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. And I did mean to say it, but I was joking. And even though I was scaring little kids by like telling dozens of little kids, like, if you don't do what we say, you're going to die in 12 years. So, yeah, it's this globalist agenda. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I see that the biggest thing though is that not only it's they're doing that targeting children. They're using a product meant to target children. They're using Desmond, a child, because they want to target children. They don't want to target
Well,
a
like just
grown
like
up.
Hitler said, right? Once you have the youth, give it a few years, and now you have the population.
And even AOC's campaign material that she throws out there, she doesn't just speak about we're gonna be dead in 12 years and that's it. And what she does is that she puts together this whole material, this presentation made
Someone
up
like
of
created
drawings
a drawing book and like a coloring book and a
meant to
comic book.
target children.
Okay, we need to
Meant to
fight
target
them
children.
just as they're fighting us. So we need money, we need resources and help. And we need to like turn you and other major political figures and do the same thing. Turn you into a superhero. Make a comic book out of you. Make a Marvel-like movie going down. Like we need to go all out and hit them the same way they're doing to us.
Okay, can my cartoon have red hair? Because blonde is not my color.
You want red hair?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try red hair.
No.
Oh, it's a mistake.
No, not a good idea.
Okay.
I mean, you could have it whatever color you want, but yeah, I mean, I think we need to make that, how do we go to the youth? How do we get that same appeal? I think some of those ideas are pretty good. Problem is it takes a lot of effort. So are people really this excited about AOC that they're creating magazines for her, or does she just have a bunch of money and they just paid a company to create one?
She has a Netflix show. Her own campaign office is creating a lot of these materials and putting them out there and sending it to schools, and schools are showing them to the children. So you have to just understand from a whole perspective. It's not just AOC sits in the Congress today and may be out tomorrow. There's a whole lot of people responsible for where we are as a country and where we're going to be within 5, 10, 20 years. And I think that once you realize the whole complexity of this issue, then you're going to be very scared for our future as America and the future of the world overall. And if you don't get involved now, then you can't complain later, because the only way that this stops is if you get involved.
Okay, so let's end this transmission here. So let's say people want to get involved. Where are they coming to you? How can they get involved?
Just DM me. I'll give you tips.
Okay. Where? Okay, New American Politics.
On Instagram, and New American Politics on Twitter. Julia Song.
Okay, go follow her. Go to nowdaily.com. Subscribe. Go to the email list. Where we can build a community. I think that's the goal of Now Daily, and I'd like to do like a call-in show. We're trying to figure out how to do that out, to really build a community, because obviously one or two people can't really do everything. AOC has a bunch of money behind her because she's just a puppet. They literally had a casting call. She's an actress basically. Probably doesn't even get paid much by them at all. Not much of the real money's coming to her. She's probably just getting. She couldn't even like afford an apartment. Now she just has like a small apartment, so that's crazy. But go to nowdaily.com. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Subscribe, but also hit the bell button so you get notified when we go live. And we'll see you in the next Now Daily Live.